I met Deo in church. He was charming in that quiet, confident way that made you trust him without asking questions. He'd been through heartbreak, he said. A woman had used him for money and left him broken. I empathized, I loved, and eventually, I married. We built a life together in a small but well-furnished duplex in Ikeja. He ran a digital marketing agency, and I worked in banking. We made enough to live comfortably, travel occasionally, and dream boldly. But dreams are strange, they whisper sweetly, then disappear when the nightmare begins. It was a rainy Tuesday morning when I found out I was pregnant. I'd been feeling fatigued for days, craving egusi soup at odd hours, and snapping at my colleagues over minor mistakes. The test came out positive. I was overwhelmed, with joy, with fear, with disbelief. I rehearsed a dozen ways to tell Deo. I imagined him lifting me in his arms, spinning us both around the room. I pictured tears, laughter, baby name discussions, late-night nursery plans. But when I finally told him that night after making his favorite meal, lighting scented candles, and holding the test kit out with a grin, his reaction froze my soul. His face didn't move. Not a smile. Not a twitch. Just a cold, blank stare. Then, calmly, as if he were discussing the weather, he said, "You should terminate it." I blinked. Laughed nervously. "You're joking, right?" "No. It's not the right time. We are not ready. But we planned this. We talked about having a child this year, Deo, what's going on?" He got up and left the table. No further explanation. No argument. Just silence. I couldn't sleep that night. I stared at the ceiling while the rain slapped against the windows. My chest felt tight. I called my sister in the morning, barely able to form words. "I think Deo doesn't want our baby," I said. "But I don't know why." Her silence on the other end was louder than his. The days that followed were quiet but tense. Deo avoided conversations about the pregnancy. He came home late, claimed to be swamped with client work. He didn't touch me. He didn't look at me. I felt like a ghost in my own home. But one thing about intuition, it doesn't rest until you listen. One evening, while looking for my bank token in his study drawer, my hand brushed against a thick white envelope. Curious, I opened it. It was a glossy card, pink and gold, with cursive fonts and baby booties printed on it. At first, I thought it was something from a client. Maybe his firm was handling a baby product campaign. But then I read the name. "You are invited to a baby shower in honor of Miss Jennifer Nwosu. The venue, a hotel in Lekki. The date, 2 weeks away." The kicker. Deo's name was listed under the RSVP. In fact, he was marked as the host. My blood ran cold. Jennifer. A name I'd heard before. A former intern from his office who had once giggled too much at his jokes, worn skirts too short during their brainstorming sessions. I had once asked if something was going on. He laughed. "She's a child," he said. "You think I'd mess up what we have for an intern?" Now I sat on the floor, the card trembling in my hands, my mind racing, my body frozen. I didn't confront him that night. Or the next. I wanted proof. I wanted answers. So, I did what I never thought I would, I followed him. Saturday morning, I told him I had a work conference in Victoria Island. He nodded absently. Said he might visit a client in Suralia. But I knew better. I borrowed my cousin's old Toyota so he wouldn't recognize my car. I waited a few streets away from our home, watched him emerge wearing a blue kaftan, looking too cheerful for a Saturday. He drove straight to Lekki. I followed, my hands shaking, my stomach twisting with guilt, fear, and a sick curiosity. He parked at a hotel. The same hotel on the invitation. I watched from a distance as he met a woman by the lobby. She was pregnant. Glowing. And the way he placed his hand on her belly, it was not casual. It was not detached. It was intimate. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run up and slap him. But I just sat there, staring, the wind from the AC drying tears I didn't even know had fallen. When he drove off an hour later, I didn't follow. I drove to Third Mainland Bridge and parked. I stood at the edge for what felt like hours, watching the water, asking God if I had done something to deserve this. I didn't jump. Because inside me, her tiny heart was beating. A child who didn't ask for any of this. A life that deserved to be fought for. I went home, waited for Deo to come back. And when he did, I told him everything. What I'd seen. What I knew. What I had decided. I'm keeping the baby, I said. You don't have to be part of our lives. But I'm done living in your lies. He didn't deny it. Not once. He didn't cry. He didn't fight. He just nodded and said, I'll send money. As if that made it better. I moved out the following week. It wasn't an easy decision, leaving the home we built together, the memories that now tasted bitter in my mouth, but staying would have been worse. Every wall reminded me of the lies. Every corner whispered betrayal. I rented a modest one-bedroom apartment in Yaba, close enough to my office but far from the poisonous air of my old life. My sister helped me settle in. She was the first to hold my hand when I went to my first prenatal visit alone. Her eyes glistened when we saw the baby's tiny fluttering heart on the ultrasound screen. You're stronger than most women, she whispered. But I didn't feel strong. Not when I got home and stared at the baby clothes catalog that came in the mail. Not when I found myself clutching my belly at 3 a.m., whispering apologies to my unborn child for not giving them a complete family. Then, out of nowhere, Jennifer messaged me. It was a short, cold text. I know who you are. Stay away from Deo. He's mine now. Don't ruin what we have. The audacity stunned me. I hadn't contacted her. I hadn't spoken her name aloud since leaving. Yet here she was, trying to claim a man who had already shattered me. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Because what she didn't know was that the cracks were already forming in her perfect illusion. A mutual friend from Deo's office called me days later. He sounded hesitant, conflicted. I don't want to meddle, he said, but you deserve to know. Deo is planning to travel out with Jennifer before the baby comes. He's selling his company shares quietly. Something's not right. It hit me like a punch in the throat. This wasn't just about betrayal anymore. He was trying to disappear. Abandon me. Abandon his responsibilities. Leave 2 unborn children behind, mine and hers, for a fresh start somewhere new. I knew what I had to do. I gathered every document I had, our marriage certificate, proof of paternity, from his own previous texts, screenshots of the baby shower invitation, even the ultrasound reports. I handed them over to a lawyer. If he wanted to run, he'd have to do it with consequences chasing his heels. And that was when everything started to unravel. Jennifer, pregnant, proud, and blind, would soon discover she wasn't the only one being played. The legal process took time, but I stayed focused. My lawyer sent Deo a formal notice, paternity responsibilities, spousal abandonment, and a warning that any attempt to flee the country without fulfilling legal obligations would result in a court injunction. It shook him. For the first time since this nightmare began, he called me, not to apologize, but to plead. You want to ruin my life, he hissed. You want to embarrass me? No, Deo, I said calmly. You already did that yourself. Meanwhile, the cracks in his new paradise with Jennifer deepened. Mutual contacts began reaching out, whispers of heated arguments, cancelled baby shower plans, and rumors that Jennifer discovered she wasn't the only one he'd been seeing. Apparently, there was a third woman. Another lie. Another flame in Deo's forest fire of deception. Jennifer's world was collapsing. She messaged me again, but this time, it was different. I didn't know. I thought I was the only one. He said you were just his ex, clinging to him. I didn't gloat. I didn't rub it in. All I replied was, now you know. A week later, she sent me a photo. A blurry shot of Deo's packed bags, left outside her apartment door. I kicked him out, she wrote. Do what you need to do. I felt nothing. Not victory. Not pity. Just clarity. Months passed. I gave birth to a beautiful baby boy, my light in all the darkness. I named him Zikora, meaning show the world. Because that's what he was, proof that I survived, that I rebuilt, that I refused to be silenced by someone else's cowardice. Deo tried to slither back into our lives once the legal pressure became real. But I stood my ground. He could be a father, on paper, in support, in responsibility, but not in my home. Not in my child's heart. Not anymore. Jennifer moved to Port Harcourt with her baby. We never spoke again, but sometimes I wondered if her child would grow up asking similar questions, about a father who thought love was disposable. In life, we often confuse silence with peace. We ignore red flags in the name of love, tolerate emotional violence just to preserve appearances. But motherhood taught me that protecting the innocent starts with protecting yourself. You can't raise a child in truth while living a lie. If you'd like, I can now help you with a story trailer script, title variations, or scene image prompts to visualize.